Is Trump now at a major disadvantage as he considers restarting the Iran war? World's biggest carrier heads home, putting US Navy in trouble? The USS Gerald R. Ford has exited the war zone after a record deployment. The American Navy is running out of cash, and officials admit the Iran war was never the original plan. Iran has gained the upper hand and issued a chilling doomsday warning to its enemies. The USS Gerald R. Ford returned home after an 11-month deployment, the longest U.S. carrier deployment since the Vietnam War, marking a rare extended at-sea period for a single carrier group. The carrier spent 326 days at sea supporting U.S. operations related to tensions in Iran and security missions near Venezuela, conducting sustained maritime presence and strike sorties. The Ford's return came at a sensitive moment as Washington weighs its next steps in the Iran conflict, complicating decisions about force posture and regional deterrence. The carrier was deployed with destroyers USS Bainbridge and USS Mahan as part of an integrated strike group tasked with power projection and escort duties. Around 5,000 sailors returned home after nearly a year at sea with the Ford carrier group, reuniting with families following an unusually long operational tour. The deployment involved intense operations and even a fire incident aboard the carrier that strained the crew and required emergency response measures at sea. Upon the Ford's return, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth praised the crew, saying they made history for completing the extended mission under challenging conditions. The carrier's homecoming raises questions about U.S. readiness in the Middle East, as planners consider how to sustain presence while other assets are unavailable. The Ford now faces a lengthy maintenance and availability period after its record deployment, reducing its near-term operational availability for follow-on missions. Multiple U.S. carriers are also undergoing or preparing for overhauls and maintenance, which together limit the Navy's carrier availability at a time of heightened demand. U.S. forces nearly depleted key weapon stockpiles during the 40-day conflict with Iran, officials say, prompting urgent replenishment and procurement concerns. Meanwhile, on May 16, President Trump posted on Truth Social a warning of a calm before the storm, a phrase that many interpreted as hinting at potential escalation. The post included an artificial intelligence-generated image showing Trump amid warships flying Iranian flags on rough seas, a provocative visual that added to tensions and public speculation about next steps. Earlier, Trump warned of a very bad time if talks with Iran remained deadlocked, signaling frustration and the risk of harsher measures. Amid talk that fighting with Iran could resume, senior U.S. Navy leaders are now openly admitting they cannot sustain current costs without painful cuts elsewhere. The service's operations chief says the 2026 budget was written before epic fury was on the table, meaning this entire Iran campaign is being funded off a plan that never anticipated a major Gulf War. Admiral Daryl Caudle describes the Navy as burning bright in the Middle East, but warns that every extra patrol and strike comes at a steep operational cost that is now starting to bite. He says the fleet is rapidly depleting fuel budgets, maintenance money, stocks of smart weapons, and the finite flight hours left on jets and helicopters scheduled for overhaul. Caudle warns that without extra cash from Congress, the Navy will have to start slashing training cycles and routine operations by July, gutting readiness to keep the Iran front man. His warning comes in the wake of U.S.-Israeli operations that began on February 28, a campaign that suddenly turned the Gulf into a 24/7 theater for carriers, destroyers, and patrol aircraft. That high-intensity phase lasted 39 days before an April 8 ceasefire understanding, but the Navy's bills, and the strain on crews and hardware, have only kept mounting since. Caudle says, and I quote, "The fiscal 2026 budget didn't bake in Operation Epic Fury. You see a large Navy force in the Middle East. So we're burning bright. But it does come at cost, and it comes at operational costs. To have the funds necessary to continue the war effort, which is quickly racking up fuel costs, operating hours, maintenance dollars, and munitions. I do fear that I'll have to start making decisions in the July time frame. My record recruiting is going to be thwarted without additional funding to PCS to those individuals from boot camp and to pay enlistment and re-enlistment bonuses." Unquote. months of non-stop missions around Iran have heavily drained maintenance accounts, forcing commanders to delay repairs and push aging hulls harder than planners ever intended. Caudle says the Navy may even have to pause permanent change of station moves for 12,000 to 15,000 sailors, freezing careers and family plans to save money for operations. He also warns that enlistment and re-enlistment bonuses could be delayed or reduced, undercutting recruitment just when the service needs fresh crews most. Extended deployments off Iran have already created logistics problems, with some ships reporting shortages of fresh food, spare parts, and other basics as rotations drag on. Reports from the fleet suggest morale is suffering and mechanical faults are rising, as overworked sailors and stretched maintenance cycles collide under punishing schedules. Iran warned that any new attack would be met with surprising new warfare, signaling that it is preparing unconventional responses for future confrontations. Army spokesman Brigadier General Amir Reza Akraminia said Tehran is working on new types of warfare, hinting at evolving tactics and capabilities without giving technical details. He added that future conflicts may expand into new domains beyond what Iran's adversaries currently expect, suggesting operations could go beyond traditional land, air, and sea battles. Akraminia claimed Iran could catch its adversaries off guard in future battles, implying surprise methods or weapons could be used if hostilities resume. He also warned that countries backing sanctions on Iran may face difficulties crossing the Strait of Hormuz, underlining Tehran's leverage over this key choke point for global oil shipments.
Today as well, we warn the enemy that if they once again resort to aggression and once again become afflicted with a miscalculation, in the way that they were in the past and now in fact are enduring and paying for the price of those past mistakes, if the enemy once again becomes afflicted with a miscalculation and resorts to aggression against our country, they will certainly face other surprising options. These options, in addition to being the determination and will of our colleagues and comrades in the armed forces, will be more advanced equipment and renewed and new methods of war. And perhaps most importantly of all, new arenas of war. Meaning that the war will enter an arena that the enemy did not predict. The enemy did not achieve any of their predetermined objectives, they were defeated in this war. Why? Because fundamentally modern wars are analyzed based on the degree of achievement of objectives. Which side in the war was victorious and which side was defeated, although now in many places it is also analyzed relatively, and perhaps one cannot speak absolutely, but whether absolutely or relatively, if we examine it, considering that the enemy did not reach any of its predetermined objectives, it faced decisive defeat and failure.
These comments came as Iran's navy confirmed the deployment of light submarines inside the Strait of Hormuz, describing them as part of its frontline deterrent. Navy Chief Rear Admiral Shahram Irani said the submarines are on standby for missions based on assessed threat levels, and can be activated as tensions rise. He disclosed that the subs were used during an operation launched in response to the attack on the Iranian warship Iris Dina in and around the Hormuz approaches. According to Irani, the submarines carried out formation maneuvers during that mission and then submerged again to continue their patrol and surveillance tasks. Irani's remarks came just days after U.S. War Secretary Pete Hegseth publicly dismissed reports that Iran possesses kamikaze dolphins, an allegation that has circulated in Western media coverage of the Hormuz standoff.
And I can't confirm or deny whether we have kamikaze dolphins, but I can confirm they don't. Ultimately, any follow-on effort, if there are mines identified, would be something that some of our units could undertake or the world could undertake. But right now we know we have a lane of safe passage that commercial shipping can flow through.